Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to the Seraphim Serenades, where I channel my guide and friend Kazaya, who's a Seraphim entity. And this week, this teaching, he'll be talking about something he calls the human battery. And he'll be, of course, explaining that and what that entails. And I feel that he has other messages to bring through too. So, just for those joining and for those watching later who may join, ask that you keep the personal questions to about one or two, as we can do private sessions later. And because I can go more in depth with kind of like readings and healings that way. So without further ado, I will bring Kazaya in and we'll start the channeling. I also ask that everyone joining, please keep yourself muted until Kazaya opens the floor to Q&A. Thank you. Greetings, everyone. It is so lovely to be speaking with you again in this fashion. An honor to be speaking with you. You may call me by the name of Kazaya, which is a simplified version of my name that your human sounds and human voices are able to pronounce easily. I am a Seraphim entity, and I do refer to myself as we a lot, as there's less individuality from my perspective. And I'm more of a group and communal entity than individual, as you see yourselves. Today's teaching will be about what I've been teaching Troy called the human battery. He was quite perplexed when I told him that term, because objectively humans and batteries are very different objects. But of course, we speak in metaphors, use a lot of metaphors and analogies to convey concepts that you can understand. So what I mean by the human battery, what you can think of as a human battery, is that the human body is, of course, very physical and biological as you see it, and it is able to repair itself, as you know, to a fairly great degree. And as human DNA continues to awaken generation by generation, there will be enhanced features and abilities of physiological healing, just as many reptiles and other types of creatures that you know can actually repair and replace limbs and organs and parts of themselves that are broken can be completely replaced. So too will humans one day. So there's a great deal of rejuvenative and regenerative energy potential in the human body. And as you know, the human body is made of a great deal of water, of course, as well as all of the other elements that are essential for life and that you consume. And as there are so many also minerals mixed in with your composition, there's a great deal of electrical conductance and also electromagnetic energy conductance that your body performs and is capable of. And those watching also know that there's more to the human body than the physiological components, and your body is also made of what you call an energy body that is quite complex, and also you can call it quantum. It has also been measured by human instruments, and that evidence and those studies are available to you. And as the human energy body is, of course, made of energy, it is practically immortal. It's like the fractalized, somewhat more dense version of what you can call your soul's light body. And this is, of course, also partly electrical. It's been measured as electrical currents, electrical also channels and centers of the body. And so by these explanations that are really quite simple to understand, what we mean by the human battery is that humans are capable of a great deal of power generation, some which is not at its fullest potential, just as your evolving DNA right now. And think of an actual battery that humans have invented. Of course, they can come in many sizes and many uses and energy outputs. And of course, each battery is designed for particular types of devices as you've created. So think of the human body and energy body together as a type of battery that generates a lot of energy. And of course, many of you know that this there's more to life than just, of course, the physical and energy bodies. Many of those listening now, as well as later, know that your thoughts are powerful, your emotions are powerful, especially your emotions are quite strong energies that move through you, and they are kind of like the energy currents you can turn on and off and maintain that either power or turn off organs and tissues and parts of your body. So too with your DNA. That's perhaps another topic we can elaborate on in another teaching. But for the human battery, what do you think the human battery can actually be a power source for? And the answer to that is pretty much your whole life, everything that you attract to yourself, even the things that you repel from yourself and your life, the the creations that you make. One example that each of you is familiar with is what you call money and resources. And each of those listening have had their times and experiences of being, as you call it, very down and scarce. Times that you ran out of money, times that you've practically ran out of all resources and things, but you didn't die, life didn't stop, and still more money, more resources, more things, food, and essentials, and even more beyond that showed up for you right when it needed to. And this is one of the ways that the human can be a power source and an influence to your personal and local reality. Why do you think you're here? It's not that you are here because your mother became pregnant, either by accident or on purpose. It's because you chose to be here. And all of this Playtrix reality, as well as life and creation, does conform to you. It does interact with you. It wants to help you. Just as your bodies are born through a mother, so is your reality. And your personal and local reality is very much very much nurturing, providing, and generous to you. Another proof of this is those you witness living on the streets. And we do recognize that this is unpleasant and not the best case, but even they aren't just completely gone and done and dying. Many of them still have stuff and bits of money and resources that show up for them. Of course, they can also get on an upward spiral and improve their life, as everyone can, with a choice, with choices to change, as well as intention and belief. And so simply it is a part of creation that is fractalized into the various parts of you, your witnessing mind, your subconscious mind, your free will, your emotions, your energy body, your physical body, as some of these primary parts that do move and interact and attract things on a level that the mind, as you've been taught to view things and as you've been taught that it operates, does have a hard time perceiving unless you've learned to observe these patterns. But you do have an influence, and life does provide for you. And this is a teaching we can go deeper and deeper into of the type of energy and power interaction from the human that many call mysterious. But just as we have guided Troy, and just as he was waking up to, it is also true that amazing things can shift and change in your life and external reality, things that people give you, ways that people treat you, and ways that life conforms to your mission just by shifting some of your beliefs, shifting fears, shifting your mindset and attitudes. And by this nature, there has never actually been a God to humanity that smites you and that does things to you that are horrible. There's never been a God that just allows kind-hearted people and souls to come down with horrible diseases and die of horrible things and go through truly some of the worst experiences that you can imagine. God does allow for what your free will, your soul's will chooses in each lifetime by contract, as well as some of the smaller things that you choose and allow for yourself on more minute scales. God, the Almighty, Omega Supreme Source, is truly all giving, all benevolent, all allowing, as well as all protective, and can be all healing. But God does not negate free will. So there's more mechanisms we can get into that may be best for another teaching, as it will be more concise for time's sake right now, as you live in a construct of time, that we shorten this teaching and simply leave you with the core teaching that we've conveyed of the human battery. Think about the ways that you're powering your life. Think about the ways that you're attracting situations, people, experiences, and resources to your life. The ways that you are believing that you can't have or can have, whatever you choose, however you fashion this, know that there is infinity within every single life, every single dimension, and every opportunity and situation. There's an infinite opportunity for learning in each situation, as well as choice in each situation. And as this is a group interaction, we now recognize and see that it is appropriate to open the group to Q&A.
Hi. I had a couple of questions. Um, Troy and Zane were wanting to put together a group, and is there any information about that, or would that be too personal?
Thank you for asking this question. And yes, we see into this. We can actually say that this is part of the plan. And Troy's somewhat limited perception wasn't able to expect or anticipate all of this and what it can be when I asked him to start channeling. But this was part of the plan as he and Zane had already known each other. But this is part of the plan, and there will be more and more to grow, more and more to expand as these teachings continue, as these messages continue, and we grow our community. This group that, yes, Zane and Troy are interested in, as well as perhaps yourself and others, can grow, of course, just like any group, just like any purpose. It it will require, of course, a great deal of work on all of your parts together to bring more of what you envision, as well as what your souls have agreed upon to do as divine work. Some of this will require some more physical anchoring as the preparation of materials and organization. The main focus and purpose of it is, of course, for a very non-physical divine mission to what you could call speed up, move forward some of the already happening advancements of human spiritual awareness and spiritual ways of being and living. One of Troy's missions that perhaps this group will support very likely is to, it's really his destiny that he's chosen in this life, is to create and manage and grow a school that is meant to bridge the divine realms, as well as perhaps what you call evidential mediumship and what Troy would describe as higher forms of spirituality with all of everything else and bring the evidence here, increase the evidence here, integrate practices such as channeling and mediumship with that of dogmatized, indoctrinated spirituality as they can respect each other and they can grow together and they can teach each other. That is the type and core of energy and purpose that this this group that is in its seed form to be able to establish firm foundations for.
Thank you. Zane also wanted to ask about, is there going to be a pole shift? And any information about that or the timeline of that?
Mm, well, technically, yes, and technically there's always been and has been, as you've seen it lately, pole shifts as what Zane is most curious about, and what, of course, many are perhaps fearing and some even paranoid about is this idea, the notion that there's going to be a sudden flop or sudden dramatic switching of poles. And to that potential, we see very little. And yes, the poles are shifting. That has always happened. And that is especially more dramatically pronounced and visible around this time of the change period. It happens every so many 24,000 years or so, as well as between each long count. So, what we can say about the possibility of a cataclysmic pole shift, basically not to worry in that regard. There will be some shifting, and there has been. However, Gaia is aware of you and each of you, and as a collective, and as Gaia has chosen to shift into a higher octave of resonance of her form, she does not want this the foundations that have already been laid for what you could call super sacred and uh, significant and growing spiritual evolution on this planet to just be what you call wiped away. It's more like she wants everything to grow and succeed. But yes, at the same time, during this change period, there does have to be some physical aspects of that. And she doesn't want like whole populations of the species to disappear and to have to restart as there's already been so much progress made. But what is happening as a result of calculated and controlled pole shifts on her part is that Yes, there's weather shifts. Yes, there are somewhat unprecedented weather phenomena and also earth plate shifts happening. And some of this is partly induced and increased by human collective consciousness, but the human collective consciousness does not control that, as Gaia's energy is much larger and stronger. However, just as a human body will exhibit physical symptoms during major energy changes and healings, Gaia must also exhibit such changes. So, another note, just to add a little more depth to that, is that just as many have, it may be wise to, of course, prepare for things that can happen, prepare for power outages, prepare for the small possibility of supply chain stops, store up some emergency food, other resources, but do not necessarily hold yourself in the reality of expecting doom and gloom and the end of days, as the children of New Hope are entering this world and unfolding, and the children of New Hope, with their 57-year process, are coming here for a reason. They didn't choose to be wiped away by the poles suddenly flipping.
That's beautiful. You answered most of the questions I just had. Can you tell us more about the children of the New Hope that are coming in?
Yes, of course. And as many of you have already been seeing, the whole world has been witnessing, children are already, the children of New Hope are exhibiting amazing talents that they've never been taught and that children of their age used to never be able to do. Many of the children of New Hope are very clearly and somewhat explicitly describing things that happened in some of their most impactful past lives, things that they shouldn't have known. These are some examples. And it is also in Troy's destiny, and of course, those of a billion other young, relatively young individuals to bring through and be parents of the children of New Hope. And we can say that Troy has been very, very much aware of the souls he will be parenting. And perhaps that's a new idea for many, but really it's not unnatural. And it's quite normal for parents, future parents especially, to really be surrounded often by the souls of their future children, visited, and for them to try to communicate with their future parents. But most people, unfortunately, just don't believe that, or their DNA and light body has not been evolved enough to receive that energy and communication. So even though for many, many years, for example, Troy's been hearing all these, you could call them kind of propaganda, worries, paranoia, predictions that people are putting out there of the poles suddenly flipping, of cataclysms, of the solar flash wiping out power grids and causing huge disasters, which won't happen that way. Not as, not really very bad. Um, he's known for a long time of his future children as they've been in contact. And so in that way, he's also had the confidence in knowing that he will make it through, that they will make it through, and that their souls from the other side have not chosen to come here in the near future for the purpose of just living a horrible life of suffering and perhaps even dying, as was in the Dark Ages, perhaps. They've chosen to be participants in the advancing of society, of cleaning up the earth and helping advance the the consciousness, collective consciousness, and individual healing and consciousness of humanity. Some of the children of New Hope have chosen to be kind of like pioneers and mavericks of not just creating, but releasing the devices and technologies of free energy. And some of them will be divinely protected to do so, even against perhaps the wills of the big corporations that don't like that. But such changes need to occur at times in your near future, and some already are, because the other interstellar based residents of this planet do not want to continue living on this planet, sharing it with a species that is ensuring its doom and ensuring its toxicity. That is a bit of the light of the children of New Hope that will become a huge foundation and influence for the next generations of evolution and light changes on this planet.
Thank you. Is there anything that we should be doing or could be doing for this new generation that we could do to help them or aid them?
Thank you for asking. And as we have said before, simple things you can do if you have interactions with some of these young children, especially those that you sense within yourself to be some of these children of New Hope and very bright souls, is to expose them to perhaps concepts um, of cleaner ways of living, of being more responsible for everything that they do, responsible for their emotions and interactions with others and relations. Some of you who have contact with these children of New Hope will also have the perhaps space and resources to share your libraries enlightening and helpful knowledge books with these children. And of course, just as each of them has their own free will, some of them are highly likely to be attracted to and curious of certain books and topics that they see. And of course, you always want to respect the will and the say of their parents. But if any of you are perhaps teachers and in contact and have significant sort of authority or right to be a part of children's lives of the Children of New Hope, then nurturing them in very conscious ways. Some specific ways could be showing them sustainable and integrative agriculture, teaching them that from a young age, as well as teaching them to manage their own minds and emotions to start with, such as through practices of meditation, if you can teach them such, and simply learning to be calm at will, as well as happy at will. Teaching them and helping to expose them to the ideas of understanding their purpose in life and their calling in life and exploring that from a young age, whether it's just through arts or fun things, or some of them will naturally be awakening from a young age to more interpersonal projects to help others. These are a few of the ways that you can start interacting with the Children of New Hope. Many of them already are being mentored and taught as their souls have chosen with other souls to be prepared. That is what we can say on that topic at this time.
Thank you. And I've also noticed something that a lot of older women are still having children. Um, are they bringing in some of these children of the New Hope? They're in their mid 50s, some of them are even in their 60s, still having children.
Hmm. Definitely some, yes, some are bearing the Children of New Hope souls. There, we see that there are various, not all of them are Children of New Hope, but there are various reasons and um, sort of methods and ways that this is happening, that some of these women are still becoming pregnant at older ages. Even Troy knows someone that is of an older, somewhat older age bracket who realistically should not be able to conceive anymore. But this individual still is, and they know that they're not carrying to term because they're part of a hybrid program. And yes, this is one of the reasons that some older women are still becoming pregnant, whether knowing that they're carrying to term or not. because there's been a call sent out to speed up progress, as well as there can be other reasons that souls have chosen, agreed upon to have this happen. But in short, not all of the children being bared by older women are of Children of New Hope. Some definitely are, though. This is quite an exciting time for us on the other side to be witnessing and participating in. You could see it or liken it to somewhat of a graduation of Earth approaching.
Thank you. Um, and then I also wanted to ask on people with ADHD, is there any advice on how to help that or help the children coming in with like being overly hyper?
Yes, and it is really quite natural for children to have very high amounts of energy. We do recognize that there can be some medical reasons that exaggerate this, but for the most part, this is just part of nature. And what we can say about what you call hyperactive children is that that's just how they are. Even for thousands of years, indigenous cultures and ancient societies have commonly allowed many younger children to move around, to play and to express themselves while they are having the adults are having some more of um their talks and their more serious time. Indigenous societies and ancient societies typically have not had the practice of trying to punish or subdue children just because they have extra energy. And they recognize that children need to get that out as well as express themselves and play for the purpose of exploring who they are, exploring their energy, exploring what they like and don't like, and their boundaries. This is a part of life as long as it can be done safely. Some supervision may be wise. And in the cases of a certain hyperactivity and high energy, we recommend keeping children engaged in activities instead of just allowing them to do their own thing. Um, quite frankly, it is um, not ideal to just hand children either a toy or a device to let them be distracted. But we do recommend interacting with them some as parents, and especially being engaged with other groups and activities to have an outlet of their energy to create and move and explore so that they always have that as an outlet for their energy. You can think of human energy, child or not, or adult, as being very similar to electricity and other forms of energy too, where you can have a lot of just hyperactive, high energy, high frequency energy, as well as a powerful electrical charge or electricity available. But you need something like an outlet and also a cord or a channel for electricity to flow in a constructive manner.
Thank you. And then I also want to touch on adults with ADHD hyperactive. It's almost like they are feeling overwhelmed and ashamed, embarrassed, like they have to apologize for their hyperactivity. Is there any advice for the adults that are wanting to medicate?
Mm. In general, each case is different, of course, but in general, we we respect free will to explore treatments, if you will, but we do recommend also honoring in your best way and honoring your best light, your own nature, um, not necessarily needing to apologize for or shun or deny your own nature, but understanding too that through some introspective practices and traditions of truly understanding the nature of yourself, which doesn't have to necessarily be highly occult or ceremonial. It can just be very simply coming to understandings of yourself and perhaps your patterns. And also, we do see a lot of value in learning about the energies of your ancestors that you've inherited in your body and understanding how that is affecting you and your current patterns in life, as well as balancing that with the understanding of your soul and soul's purpose. And if you chose perhaps to be higher energy and be different from your ancestors, and in what way, and why, the purpose of why you chose that for yourself. Sometimes that contrasts with how you were in a past life. Sometimes that serves you better or in a different way in this life.
Thank you. Would that also help? Would the ADHD also help with the um, how society could possibly be changing? Would it be more cooperative? And would that assist in that? Um,
Could you elaborate a little bit on what this question is?
okay, you said that ADHD would be more um, being more physical. Is society going to be more cooperative, working with one another, um, and would that kind of link in, work together?
Would the society support or be a part of hyperactivity?
More, is society becoming more cooperative, more going back to nature, getting more out of the bigger cities? Is it going back?
For the most part, yes. As as infinity and expansion is always present, we see the validity, and you see that there is still continuing activity of course, corporations and the expansion and the maintenance of cities. But in contrast to that, of course, there's always, and at this time, increasing numbers of people who are um, observing some of the detriments of city life, or feeling the call also just to spend more time closer to nature, living in rural areas. Some are feeling the call and waking up to living in sustainable and eco-friendly ways. So, yeah, yes, we cannot say that every single person is necessarily going to choose that. Some are choosing city living, which at this time, unfortunately, many larger cities do have a somewhat unfortunate amount of pollution output just for living in such ways. But we also see that there's potential as technologies and environmentally friendly living evolve, that technologies will allow cities to come to the point of becoming much more sustainable, as well as in a time in your future when you're ready, some will also start having more direct contact with and learning from having interactions with the technologies of interstellar people, so that they can bring those ideas and those concepts into some more modern technologies. Some other ways that, yes, this does help what you call ADHD and hyperactive adults is that they explore their nature and connection also to the larger whole of nature within cities and also with the earth. And as always, we recommend for everyone to plant your bare feet on the earth, as this will help ground and calm and neutralize and balance your energies for those hyperactive or not.
I have just a quick question. When you were talking about the human battery, and I guess like when, at least my interpretation was when the energy is low, that's, I guess, people who are in like depression or homelessness or those kinds of states. Do you have specific recommendations? You said it was possible for people in that state to create like an upward spiral to improve their circumstances. But I know like a lot of times when people are in that state, either they don't have energy, or the doing positive type things don't seem very appealing, to put it one way. So do you have any recommendations for people that are, I don't know, in that state or feeling that way, to do things to raise their energy to kind of like turn that around or change that?
Yes, what we can recommend, whether you're living on the streets or not, or in somewhat lower and what do you call depressed states, is regardless of your circumstances, you can always change what is within you and change what is in your mind if you really want to change, if you really want a better life, and also if your soul is chosen to have that be for you in this life, then that can be. And an upward spiral, getting on an upward spiral track is always a possibility for any human who is sincere about changing themselves, improving themselves. We can say that perhaps the one of the most powerful changes that you can make, ways that you can start changing, is from your very core and from within, and then working on other layers within yourself and moving outward, as it is quite simple to understand that you have the most power to change starting from within yourself and within your what is in your power to change. As you start to shift and change energies from within your own mind and beliefs and heart and energy, then you'll be just that much more ready to start nurturing and growing and facilitating change in other areas of your life, um, starting with your thoughts and beliefs. Sometimes thoughts are easier to start changing than core beliefs. When you get to the point of being more aware of and controlling and changing your core beliefs, then you get to see greater energies change in you. Um, Changing thoughts and emotions is a good starting point for anybody to get an upward spiral. One of the specific practices that Troy has found helpful to get on and even maintain an upward spiral is journaling and writing. And what he has done to get back on upward spiral tracks in the past is start writing positive affirmations and truisms about himself and his life. And just by doing that every single day, usually for, we recommend 3 or 4 weeks, or it doesn't have to be a limited time, but ongoing, then you start to see shifts in your outer reality and things showing up for you as you start clearing up and changing energy from within you.
Thank you. And just one more quick question about the living in the city versus living in the country. Do you think it's healthier and a better idea for everyone to live out in nature instead of living in the city?
Objectively, we see both as being valid, and for the purpose of living perhaps more in the country and in the woods and closer to nature with more space around you, we see that as being very personally beneficial, sometimes environmentally beneficial too, especially when you're truly connecting with nature and the energies of nature around you. And this can help the individual greatly. However, too much space from others can also isolate your light body and spiritual energies from others. And so, of course, it's community that has been a major call that has been sent out from the source lately, to build communities. And so some of this can be online, some of this can also be in person. It does help to do both. There can also be a great deal of benefit of energy transfer from person to person in person. So in that way, city life can also be beneficial, especially, and even some rural life, communal life can be beneficial for conscious communities and individuals to have high energy exchanges. But we also recognize that many cities these days don't practice conscious community collectively. And so this can create much disequilibrium. And many people in the city, unfortunately, currently, not all, but many are very, what do you call, self-centered and isolated from others. You see this as they're walking down the street and in their little boxes. And so it can be beneficial still for individuals in their homes in the city to start practices of perhaps meditation and deeper spiritual healing. But imagine that city life could actually become incredibly beneficial and a majorly healing experience if almost everyone or everyone were to be in an energetically hygienic and healthy and healed state within themselves and toward others. And imagine a city of truly cultivated, collective, respectful, and high energy. That could even be more beneficial as a collective than a lot of separated country and distant living. So it largely depends on how you as individuals and communities choose to run your lives, interact with each other.
Are there specific locations that it's more beneficial for us to live, or is that just totally personal preference?
To a large degree, we see this as a personal preference, and there are some people who are very much drawn to certain areas and stay in certain areas. Some people live in the same city and area that they're born and raised in. Some people venture far away. Some people travel the whole world and travel around a lot without just one home in one place. It largely depends on your personal level of energy, your preference, also your preference of environment, of weather patterns and temperatures, as well as just the energy you feel from the land, as well as community dynamics. So, yes, we see that there are many high energy places and places that can be beneficial for individuals to live in, but ultimately it is a personal decision of where they let their roots settle.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know if anyone has any more questions they would like to ask.
At this time, if there are no further questions, we see it appropriate to bring this channel to a close. And as always, we recommend that everyone spend some time putting your bare feet on the earth, smell some flowers, wildflowers, feel the sun caress your skin, and cleanse yourself safely in wild waters, as these are ways of interacting with some of the four elements that help balance your creature bodies. All is well. Hmm. Well, that was fun.